Welcome to this week's listeners' questions. I am joined by the brilliant Rochelle Humes, and we are answering all of your probing questions. Listeners' questions.
Love this.
Okay, there's lots. Varying degrees of parenting, all sorts. So, okay, Joanna, I just found out I'm pregnant with twins. Do you have any newborn tips?
Oh my gosh.
Twins.
I don't have any twin tips.
God.
But I just think, actually, everyone will chuck so much advice at you. Like, if that's your first pregnancy, and yeah, twin tips I definitely don't have. And I think you're going to need to tap into a new level of patience.
You're going to need help. You're going to need help.
Yeah, it takes a village. But I remember when I was pregnant with Alea, I was young. So I was 23 when I had Lay. And I obviously didn't have the first clue what I was doing. But I just took everyone's advice so literal. Like, I could have met you today and you'd have said, you need this, and I'd have been straight on Amazon ordering it. And I just really felt like...
I took everything.
I just took every bit of advice that I really overwhelmed myself.
Yeah.
And actually, you just got to learn your own baby, or babies in your case. Because they're all so different. And and she'll probably quickly learn that with having two at the same time. Like,
so
you
different.
will know how to settle your baby. There's just that instinct that you can't, nobody else can advise you in that way. So
I would say have a routine.
Yeah, routine.
Have a routine.
Just limit outside noise.
Put those kids to bed.
Yeah. Do you know what my big tip is as well? Actually, that I couldn't do with Blake because he was a lockdown baby when he was born, was I actually had all my visitors to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Because I actually...
So when you got home, you wanted the peace and quiet.
Yeah, and I really learnt that. And by the time I had Valley, I was like, that's what we're doing here. Everyone comes to hospital because I was sort of a little bit like, you're on such a high after their body. Like, you feel like Superwoman because you're like, I have done this. I don't think any other woman has ever done what I've done.
They've never done it quite like I've done it.
You're so like obsessed with your baby and like, patting yourself on the back. And actually, you've got people there and they can stay for a limited amount of time. They're going to pop by and then they've got their fix. They've seen the baby and they leave you alone.
And then you're like, I just want to go home and have peace and quiet.
Because when everyone piles over to your house, you end up making everyone a cup of tea.
You end up making the tea.
Yeah, and sandwiches and whatever else, So I would either say get everyone to the hospital, or when you feel better, however long that is, I then started to visit them.
So you could pick them up
because
and
then
leave.
I can go, I've got to get back for bath time. Yeah. So I just think limit everyone to your house because people actually don't know when to leave. They don't.
And you will have gone through this whole process, whether it's a section or and you will be up. So my advice is always, I wrote a blog post years ago on advice for new mums, and it was just like, don't listen to anyone, don't listen to me. But here is what I say when I'm stay in your pajamas. Shower every day and put fresh pajamas on, because then when people come to the house, they remember, oh, she's been through something.
Don't look too normal.
Don't look like you're all fresh and forget the pressure of trying to look good. Yeah. Have the leaky nipple pads. Like, just
let
be unknackered and say, can you
are.
please make me a brew?
Yes, yeah. I would just limit them coming over, to be honest, because when you've got downtime in your own house and the baby's asleep and you've got them in it, there's always something you want, like, I actually want to make my bed. Or, do you know what I mean? You actually...
Or sleep at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm mum to a 6-month-old and I can't help but feel desperate to go back to work. My maternity leave isn't due to finish for another 6 months, but I'm really missing my old life and working. I'm feeling really guilty of having these feelings, as it seems most mums dread having to go back to work. Am I being selfish? Dee. I relate.
I relate. I mean, I feel seen by hearing that.
Thank you, Dee. We feel seen.
You've made me feel a lot better because it's that real sort of, am I a terrible person? Like, I love this baby more than anything in the world, but I
love what I do.
I need that. And I was sort of grieving the past life of me.
Yeah.
And, but I'm now not in denial and I don't kind of feel ashamed of the fact that I actually bloody love what I do.
Yeah.
And it is what makes me me.
Yeah.
And having a family has added to my life like you wouldn't believe. And I live for them. But at the same time, part of my DNA is
what you do.
Is what I do. And I kind of... I barely took a maternity, to be honest. I'm self-employed. It's not really a thing.
No. And you don't have to stay off for another 6 months.
No.
Just say, I'm coming back.
Yeah, and maybe you could go back, people that work for me, they want it, they are the same, they want it to come back. And we kind of looked at how that would look for them. So why don't you maybe
dip your toe in?
You might get your fix by doing a day or two and then being online one day from home. And if you're valued and, I was just thrilled. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to be the best boss here. I want you to be sure. I don't want to rush you. I don't want to push you.
Get back.
But please come back.
Please come back. We need
I'm
you.
crying every day without you. But I would benefit from having you back one day a week because I really value
Take your time.
So just take your time and build up to it.
And don't feel guilty and know you're not being selfish.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, this is funny. I strongly dislike my 9-year-old daughter's best friend. Oh, no. I know it's mean to say about a child, but she is a bad influence, and I've seen her be rude to my daughter on several occasions. I'm sorry, I'll tap you out then. You're done. I don't want her playing with her anymore. But should I let my daughter make her own decisions? What would you do? She's 9. No, you do not let her make her own decisions. She's 9.
She is 9. That's
get the
very
little
fair.
brat out of your house.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny.
I'm so mean. I can't.
No, it's just funny because everybody goes through that, don't they? They're, I'm not really sure about that. But you know,
she's my best friend, and then you look in the kid, and the kid's got like Damien eyes from the Omen. Like you've mocked your card, mate.
Yeah, but it's a really hard one to manage. And I think if you can I would just really point out values that we love as a family versus like being like, no, get rid of the friend because you don't. But I would,
You're very mature.
I would definitely.
I'm old. I've seen too much. Yeah. I'm like, drop it.
I mean, I would definitely have an opinion, but to them, I'd be like, right, you know, when I've just witnessed, if this happens, that's not how we act.
That's not how we behave, is it?
So yeah, I would really point out your core values.
And therefore, she's satanic, and you should not be her friend.
And therefore, we hate her. She can't come around for dinner ever again.
And her parents are horrible.
And actually, I don't want a cup of tea with her mum either. Yeah, I would go down that route and just make those sort of bits that you've picked up on, make them aware of it, because then they slowly might think like,
I don't want to be her friend anymore.
Yeah.
Just watch out it doesn't turn into bullying.
Plant the seed.
My mother-in-law is constantly criticising my parenting decisions and undermining my authority in front of my children. My partner just says to take no notice, but it's getting me down. Would you confront her? That's just from Frankie. You never know.
From the Saturdays? Is that you, girl? Oh, my gosh. This is a hard beast, isn't it? Family, and it's really hard when you have a sort of feeling about a family member that isn't your side. Because if my mum was I'd go, Mum, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And
Shut it,
that
woman.
would be it. And we can talk, we can have that dialect.
You can't say, shut it, woman, to your mother-in-law.
You can't say,
well, you can if you're my daughter-in-law, to be fair.
Shut it, woman. But I would, yes, I think because you're going to stew on it and it's going to annoy you. And I think it doesn't have to be like a real sort of confrontational chat. But
it will get to that, though, if you don't do something.
It will.
I wouldn't say confront.
I would say, listen, do you know when you say that in front of the kids, we don't, maybe you should say about your husband and say, look, we always...
Get your husband to do it. It says partner, husband or wife, get them to do it.
But then sometimes that can that could also make a situation between, oh, she's obviously got him to talk to, you know. Yeah. So I would just say it in a nice way, and then if it happens again, then he can... Woman to woman, right? Like, but yeah, I saw a meme the other day that said, it really made me laugh. It says, my mother-in-law keeps criticizing. We always write up funny little memes for my little Coco, like parent memes. And one of the girls from the office sent it, and it was so funny. It said, my mother-in-law keeps criticizing how I'm parenting her grandkids when I'm actually married to one of hers and he's fucking useless or something.
I saw one that said,
it was so
my mother-in-law,
good.
My mother-in-law needs to, telling me how to parent, needs to take several seats. I've seen your work.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. Maybe just send her that.
That's why I couldn't say
day.
anything to my daughter-in-law. Is violence acceptable? I love you lot. Is violence acceptable when a stranger kisses your 6-month-old baby?
Oh.
Yes. How did they get close enough, number one?
Yeah.
How did they get close enough?
I find
stop you there.
Bizarre. Some
Who
people
does that?
are really... No, but some people, and sometimes it's older people sometimes, but they're like, that real like, come.
Get your mouth away from my child.
No, that's like a trigger to me.
No.
And do you know what else they do?
So bad.
I remember being in an airport flying, and I was on my own once, and they were actually a fan of my husband, and they were like, oh my gosh, we're so happy that you're having a baby. And she lifted up my top.
She did not.
And I was just like, and I weirdly let her do it. You know, like, I think I was
shock.
so dumbfounded. She lifted up my top and she was rubbing my tummy. And I was just like, oh, like that personal
boundaries, Doris, boundaries.
Barrier. I was like, oh my God. Then afterwards, I felt like, you know, I wanted to tell her everything, and I was like, wanted to find her in the airport again. But at the time, I just said nothing because it was sort of happening in slow-mo. And I was like, oh yeah, she's
actually touching me. Right, okay, she's lifted my top.
This
Okay,
is
fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, violence may be a little far. But yeah, you've definitely
we're there on the side of violence.
Got the right.
If you mean like knocking a hand away, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I'd get away with it. I'm a nan, so I'd get away with it.
Yeah, and do you know what's worse as well? When someone wears that really strong oud
perfume,
and you smell it on your baby for days. Yeah, that's my worst.
That's a lesson to people who, if you're going to visit someone that you know, a friend or a loved one who has had a baby, do not wear perfume.
Yeah. Just do it on the way home.
Wear perfume. We are animals.
Yeah.
When I pick up that newborn, if it does not smell like my newborn, because you literally like...
Yeah, well, you could bottle that, couldn't you? That smell is just the best ever. But when it's masked by someone's oud... And also, I'm like, don't worry about smelling nice for me. I'm breastfeeding.
No, I don't care. I can smell nothing. I don't care. I stink. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
I love these questions.
Can't do this one. This is all on you, love.
Oh, no.
Rochelle, I need your advice.
Oh.
I recently started a band and one of the members is constantly late for rehearsals and meetings, which disrupts our schedule.
Oh.
How do you address this? Did you ever have these issues in the Saturdays? I feel like that could be a reporter from a newspaper just trying to sneak in a thing there.
It really could be that.
She's called Imogen, apparently.
Hi, Imogen, apparently. Do you know what? That's a hard one because it's early days. There's going to be those teething issues. Have you communicated it? Have you said, listen, you've got to start, like, you could do that thing that my husband does to me, like, say rehearsals start at a different time. Like, be smart.
Are you the one who's late and he's the one who's on time?
Yeah, but do you know what? He is like, what does he say? Early is
5 minutes early is on time is late.
Yeah,
and 5 minutes late is unacceptable.
It's like, I'm not at work, we're literally going for a bit of food, like, drop me out. Like, when on holiday, he'll be like, are you ready? I'm like, I have to be ready all year long. Like, if I'm
just want to relax,
15 minutes late to the table, like, it's not gonna, no one's gonna
that deep, love,
hurt us. Like, it's fine. But yeah, maybe start, I would say it, and then it depends how much you value them as a member of the group. Like, because some people, that is just their traits. We could all be better at it, don't get me wrong. If she wants to show up, she could start getting there on time. But yeah, I would say it, and then if is she the lead singer? Are you going to miss her? Is what I'm saying here. Yeah. Is she crucial?
Is she Madonna?
Yeah, I would tell her, and then if not, I would just start factoring in some buffer room. So if you say, right, it's at 8 today, and then you're like...
That's tolerating it, though. You're very polite.
Yeah, but it just depends how far you are into this.
And who
but she
they
should
are
do
in the
better,
band.
Because you know when some people are like, I'm just late, that's me as a person. No, late isn't in your DNA. That's something you can change about yourself. You just have to want to.
I think it's that kind of... When you're late, when you are repeating behaviour and you are repeatedly late, you are telling everyone that's waiting for you that your time is more important than theirs.
And
it isn't.
Disrespect.
It isn't.
Yes,
that's what I've had to drill into a couple of my kids because they don't do it on purpose.
No.
But they're just, in their own time zone.
Yeah, but you don't have... late in your DNA, and that's why. And I say that to my kids.
Do those
like
excuses.
we can't
Get
have that as an
earlier.
excuse. I'm just late. You know me. I'm just untidy. No, you're being untidy. Sort yourself out.
Nice.
So yeah.
My husband and I are constantly clashing over household responsibilities. I'm currently on maternity leave and looking after our 8-month-old. He is working full time. I'm struggling to keep on top of the housework, and he comes home expecting everything to be spotless.
Oh.
I think he should pull his finger out and help out a bit with the housework, but do I have a leg to stand on as he has been at work all day and I'm at home with the baby? Olivia.
I think you're phrasing it wrong, Olivia. He's been at work all day and I'm at home with the baby. Well, should we just stop there? You're doing yourself a disservice by even saying it like that. I take my hat off to anybody that stays home all day with children because yes, I do that some days. Some days I'm at home with the kids all days, and then the next week I'll be working quite a lot. But that's my toughest gig. And going to work, which is why I was like, didn't take a long maternity, is my escapism, and that's where I feel like me. So I don't know if he needs to stay at home all day and you just practice this and just see if the house is spotless when you get home.
I would have stopped it and he comes home expecting everything to be spotless.
Yeah, this is all too much for me.
You need to sit down, babe. No.
Yeah, and I think that feels really archaic.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
not
get
1952.
It because I know loads of households are set up in that way.
Yeah.
But I just think you're putting too much pressure on yourself, and almost she's sort of playing into the narrative that he's created.
And he has a point.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a point. And of course he's been at work all day. We get that. You appreciate that. But at the same time, this is a real job.
I mean, couldn't have said it better.
And your dinner's in the dog.
Yeah, literally. Come home, maybe or if you want to come home and take the baby off me, that's fine. That doesn't mean I'm immediately going to go and start cooking.
Yeah.
I might just need to lie down.
I would really struggle with that. Oh, God. Yeah.
I have to do a presentation at a big conference for work next month and I'm petrified. Any tips for being confident presenting to a room of people? Vanessa.
Oh, I think knowing that everybody feels that. Anybody that has to, and I'd like talk for a living, but anytime I've got to pitch something in front of it, like everybody will have that, and everybody in that room will have been in that position before, and like be at ease with that. Don't think like, don't have imposter syndrome.
There's something wrong with me.
And don't get into that headspace. Like you're there to do a job. It's no different. It's just on a little bit of a bigger stage. And yeah, I mean, make sure you really know inside out what you're talking about, that you wouldn't need anything in front of you. That's the only thing I always say.
You do it with no
fail
hands.
To prepare to fail. I'm like Little Miss Preparation.
This is like a listener's questions of bumper stickers.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So I think really know it. Know what you're talking about, believe it. And then if you have a little mind blank, there'll be something that you know to come back to because it's so locked in there.
There'll be a trigger of something.
Yeah.
Because you've obviously spoken, you've sung in front of, what's the record audience you've sung in front of back in the day?
Oh gosh, like, I don't know, I'll probably get this wrong, but maybe like at a gig, maybe like 30, 40,000 people maybe.
Yeah. So you've done that.
Yeah.
And then you do TV, which is talking to a camera.
Yeah.
I think it's actually in the middle where it's harder for people because you're much closer to people. If you're doing a room of 20 people, a room of 150 people plus is like, oh, that's a lot of eyes. When it's a big crowd,
you
can
can't
imagine
see anyone.
Exactly.
You can see lights. I mean, you can when they put the lights up, but you're kind of, it's more of an atmosphere than like faces looking at you. I did a business chat. I was a speaker a few weeks ago and I was so nervous. And obviously it's something that is like newer to me, so that's probably why. But I was actually had those real butterflies because it was probably, about 80 people. And I could feel the eyes and see the facial expressions. And that is where it is a little bit more daunting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that middle ground group is certainly more daunting.
But everyone gets nervous.
Everyone gets nervous, Vanessa. Just know your shit.
Yeah, know it. Know it inside out and you'll be good.
I'm a mum of 2 months old and 3 years old. I'm trying to care for them both, but feel like I'm neglecting one or the other and it's tearing me apart. Why are we so hard on ourselves? How can I ensure both my children feel loved and attended to? They will, and they won't remember being 3 and 2 and 2 months and 3 years old. They will.
You're so right. Like,
they're not going to remember.
Remembers?
They're not going to remember.
And also, you're doing the best you can.
I'm not saying leave them outside the shop.
And there's always one child that has to run errands for the other child when you have more than one. Don't you think that? Like dropping one to ballet while the other one's in the back of the car because they're not quite old enough to go to ballet yet, and you feel bad because they've been basically in the back of the car for a few hours of the day. But we're all in the same position. I'm lucky that my mum is close by and she will kind of help me, so I'll try and do like a focus day on one child if the other one has a friend, a play day, or I will try to make a bit of a conscious effort. But so I would say like depend on the people that you can, and if you want to do like one-on-one day, I would say that. But ultimately you're right, like don't be hard on yourself. You don't. And
if the 2 month old is 2 months old, just focus on the 3-year-old and just keep the 2 month old in your arm.
Yeah.
You know,
that's really where they want to be. They want to be fed.
Just keep the 2 month old here
and they want to sleep. Yeah.
And keep the 3-year-old busy.
Yeah. And the 2 month old is going to be napping a lot throughout the day.
Sleep a lot. It's 8 weeks. They're just going to sleep.
When the sleep's happening, then do some colouring with the 3-year-old or however that will look. But yeah, the hard time mums give themselves. It's
don't do it.
We all do it, but it's mad, isn't it?
No guilt. Don't do guilt.
Yeah.
Pointless.
Yeah, you're right. It's not getting us anywhere, is it?
What are your top tips for being successful in the music industry?
Oh, I've forgotten that. I've left the music industry a long time. I'm not probably
I think they just want to tap into some Saturdays here, clearly.
I'm not well equipped, to be honest. It's so different to when as I said, I've not been in the music industry for 10 years. Wow.
What worked for you guys? What was the magic ticket, do you think?
I think we were really resilient and we launched at a time where everybody was launching off the back of an X Factor or a reality show. So they had that instant overnight boom, and that's really hard to get. So we were like doing every uni gig. We were getting dressed in toilets. We were like, doing the most and like working the scene. So we actually really appreciated every little achievement. I think when you like boom off of one of those shows, and I ask Marvin this quite a lot because he obviously, X Factor overnight vibes.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously they were together first, but that real sort of like peak was when they were on those shows. And actually, like, it's a blessing because you've got instant exposure, but also you've got to learn on the job. And if you're not instantly cut out for that, you'll know pretty much straight away. But for us, we really appreciated every little milestone. We're like, oh my gosh, they're now playing our song on the radio. Or, oh my gosh, we've been invited to perform at the big weekend of that radio station. Like, we really were, like, we couldn't believe every little moment we had because we did all the kind of shit before.
Yeah.
Whereas I think
you had time to enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, and we were really grateful. And then when we got that number one, we didn't have a number one a week after launching because we were on a big show. We kind of really worked for it. Yeah. So I think they used to put everything on MySpace then. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
My granny over here. But I just think there's and I think that's what's good about now, and the way that I would see it is there are so many avenues with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, so much more than there was.
Just put it out there. Be a grafter.
Put it out there and just don't stop. There's always somebody. Nick Grimshaw said to me once, there's always, I think he'd done an interview with Katy Perry and it's always stuck in my mind. Because he was like, I cannot believe her schedule. She arrived and she got off the plane and she was going here afterwards. And he told me this story, and apparently she said to him, he met her and she said, oh my goodness me, are you tired? And she went, no, we never say we're tired because there's always another girl waiting in the wings ready to whip my wig off. And I was like, it's so true. Like,
I mean, that's true in business.
And if someone at that status gets it, like, there's always someone that will work harder than you and show up. So I think you just got to be a little grafter.
Which is also a message to the previous Imogen about the person who's turning up. She needs to show up.
Show up.
Thank you.
I've loved this. Put the world to
love
rights.
it. Love a nice little listeners' questions when it's all things, well, clearly not being in a famous band. That's like, you know, when I win the Grammy for Best New Artist, I'd like to thank Rochelle for her advice.
Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. You've got it all covered, mate. That's all you're missing is the Grammy at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for sending your questions, guys. They're always entertaining.